Hi, welcome back to Chats with RRS. I'm Guleid. It's been a while since you've seen me. Been busy, very, very busy, setting up our new office in Burton. So any needs in the Burton area, please see our details here below, our new address and email addresses and everybody that you need to contact. We'll take you around to the Burton office and we'll do a virtual tour. But I'm joined here today with a very special guest. It's no one other than Lucy Henderson. So Lucy works on our commercial division. She's been part of our business for about 7 or 8 months at this moment in time. She's come in, short time, big impact, hit the ground running. She's come from a very, very busy background, which was hospitality, working weekends, evenings, Christmas Eve, you name it. I'm guessing last Christmas was her first Christmas off since she was about 16.
Yeah, it was.
So she does everything from temp or perm recruitment within the commercial division, and she's been supporting a very, very successful desk within the commercial division. So welcome to the pod, Lucy.
Thank you.
So tell us about yourself. What are the things that you cover? Let the public know and so on.
Yeah, so I work in the commercial team, so I generally do basically anything that's in an office. In particular, I work with more sales roles, management positions, senior HR and finance administration, a bit of a mix to be perfectly honest. And because I've only been here for about 8 months, it's been a lot of trial and error and mixing up which different fields I like working with in particular. And to be honest, at the minute, I like working with everything, so I like having a bit of a mixed desk.
No, perfect. So what we cover in the commercial division is anything professional services. So anybody behind a desk, in an office type environment. So if we've got clients out there that are watching this at the moment and you'd like to reach out to Lucy with any requirements, we'll make sure that our email is just here, and you can reach out to her. So Lucy, talk to me. What was the biggest transition that you've had coming from the hospitality industry into the commercial sector?
Probably the hours, to be perfectly honest. So I worked in hospitality for a long, long time, and it's a lot of shift work, unpredictable hours, moving around all the time. So you never know where you're working, when you're working. So then going into a 9 to 5, very structured sort of work environment has been really different. Also the mornings, I was not used to getting up in the morning, to be perfectly honest. So getting up in the morning, I'm not a morning person, so that's been a challenge, but it's been a few months now, so I'm settled in now, so in the swing.
No, that's good to hear, and I can understand. You probably were going to work in the dark and coming back home in the dark. But just so the viewers know, Lucy did a lot of different roles within the hospitality industry. Yeah. She was part of it since... She started really young, 16, 17?
14.
14.
14.
Was that even legal?
Yes. I think I was paid about £2 an hour though.
Won't get you far in this day and age. So yes, 14, probably dishwashing, was it? And
waitressing in a hotel. Yeah, waitressing in a hotel. I was absolutely dreadful. I was absolutely dreadful. I think they just thought I was really funny because I was just an absolute shambles. So they kept me for ages, but I was a terrible waitress. Okay. Absolutely dreadful.
Interesting. And it just goes to show the work ethic that Lucy would have had at the age of 14. Not many children these days would be actually working at the age of 14, all glued behind their iPads, watching this on YouTube, hopefully, and taking the advices that Lucy's going to give to the younger generations. So from the age of 14, started off as a waitress.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the journey that you went through at the time.
Yeah, so I was obviously still in school, so it was just part-time on weekends and things like that. And then eventually I started to get quite good at it. It took some time, but I did start to get quite good. And then I moved into working in bars and pubs and sort of branched into that sector. I got my first sort of leadership position. I was a supervisor when I was 17, which was quite exciting actually. I know, promotion. And then I went to work into nightclubs, which was a very different ball game.
At what age was that?
18.
Okay, must have enjoyed it.
I did. I loved it actually, to be honest. At that age, it was just fantastic. The people that you meet, it was so fun. I really enjoyed it. And then, went into hotel work, more into restaurants. And then I was in management by the time I was about 20, 21.
Wow.
So, yeah.
A lot of responsibility on your shoulders from a very young age.
Oh, yeah. Then. Yeah, it was a big learning curve.
With drunken antics. If you're at a nightclub at 18, I can imagine some of the stories that you would have
I've seen it all.
or some of the stories that you'll be able to tell. I don't know if you'll be wanting to share that, but we'll try and get it out of her. I'll try my best. So yeah, 2021 management then, and looking after the whole entire business, was it? Or was it a certain night or sector?
So I was assistant manager at that point. I was working in a pub chain, and I had a team of about, I think there was 9 of us in total. And everyone was older than me, apart from 2 of the waitresses, which was lovely. But it was quite difficult actually, and having that, like, being a young woman at that age, being in a position of power with then working with people that were older than me, I found it really quite difficult to begin with. But I then just really fell in love with it, and I did it for a long time.
You just touched on the fact of a couple of things. So within recruitment, we've got key characteristics that are obviously protected within the industry. And 2 of the things you just touched on there was age and gender. Which could be a bit of a taboo subject to discuss. However, coming from the era where we obviously now have got a lot more in place, everybody's more educated on the fact of these key characteristics, and we recruit on skill and will. How would you say it compared to those times, and now that you are an actual recruiter, what differences do you essentially see within the industry? How was you treated at 21? As a manager, as a female, independent, and how people are treated now? What are the biggest differences you see in the market?
I think equality is much better in the workplace in general. I think that's across the board. I would hope that's everywhere. But from my personal experience, that has come on leaps and bounds from when I was working at that age. And we're talking, this is 10, 12 years ago. Not saying how old I am there. But yeah, this was obviously quite a while ago now. So it was very different back then. No one took me seriously. I had big issues with customer complaints of, older men, older women would come in and complain, and then they say, no, we want to meet the real manager, and I'd be like, no, that's still me. So that was really difficult, and it took a long time, I think, for things to start to balance out there. And I mean, I was in the newspaper a couple of years later when I was about 22 for being one of the only female cocktail bartenders in Leicester.
Wow.
At the time, and now there's loads of them, and oh my God, some of them are amazing. But I think at the time it just really wasn't a done thing, really.
Talk about being a pioneer in your industry. Ta-da! Prime example of it. So no, that's good to hear. So you've obviously had the work ethic, the responsibilities, the business acumen for a very long time, and obviously having worked with you for a while, I kind of know what the things that you're into. It's not just the leadership, it's you're a nurturer, so you like to solve problems, you like to do the nice things in life, and it's not all about money in your head.
No.
Even though I'm a true believer that money rules the world. I believe in a theory called it's from Wu-Tang actually. It's called cream. Cash rules everything around me. Cream. So it is that sort of world for me. Whereas Lucy's got the right balance and would go above and beyond with getting it right the first time for the clientele. So that was probably instilled into you from the hospitality sector, because if you had people that were older than you at the time complaining, moaning, the youth these days will call them Karens. I apologise for anybody called Karen out there. My great aunt is called Karen, so I've got a lot of love and respect for the Karens out there. So as I was saying, my great aunt Karen, God bless her soul, actually introduced me to the Formula One racing industry, which Lucy is absolutely obsessed by the way. We're actually both Lewis Hamilton fans. I know, great. He ain't doing so well at the moment. But what I'm going to actually talk to you about is how the industry in Formula One actually lines up to things that we do in everyday life. So obviously you were working within the hospitality industry, and within hospitality, you've got to be quick, on your feet, bam, 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 bam. Thank you, ma'am. And he came into perm recruitment. Perm recruitment was a bit slower. So they were having the floor problem in Mercedes. All my F1 watchers out there, you know what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden, she formed into Verstappen, and she's non-stop, winning every single race. and everything that goes in between that.
To begin with, it was really weird for me, to be perfectly honest. Hospitality is so think on your feet and everything's instantaneous and everyone wants something right now this second, because that is just customer service and that is the general public, unfortunately.
Not wrong. we live in a society where we like to complain and moan.
Yeah, and everything, and life moves so fast now. Everyone wants everything right now this second, right in front of them, and so in hospitality, it just doesn't work that way, sadly, in a lot of ways. So I went from something that was very fast-paced for me in that sense, and very physical labour. You're running around a lot of walking, a lot of you're just on your feet all day, 18 hours a day. To then being here where, to be honest, I'm on my feet most of the day. I hate sitting at my desk. I'm always on the phone wandering about, but I think the big difference for me was then the slowing down and then trying to make it as fast as I then could, because I prefer that faster paced work ethic. And so my biggest challenge, I think, getting here was I just wanted to fill my desk up as much as I possibly could so that I didn't have time to be bored, essentially, or to be feeling like I didn't know what I was doing.
No, that's interesting, because I've been in some restaurants, you sit there for ages and the service could be bad. However, for a lot of us, you've got to understand within the industry, when it comes to recruitment, we have clients that operate the same way as them sort of restaurants. We don't get feedback. So you send a CV. So sending a CV is the same as putting your order in at a restaurant.
Yeah.
So you send a CV and hope for the chef to come back with a meal. So we hope for our clients to come back with an interview. It's just the way the world works. But then you have some bad restaurants that take forever and ever and ever. Same way you've got some clients that take forever and ever and ever. The only difference is clients is in a restaurant, my meal will still come to me. But in the real world, the candidate's gone. So unless you act fast and get your acting gear and be a Hamilton or a Verstappen, the candidate's gone. I'm telling you now. You'll be a Nico Rosberg, win one championship and you're over. So, slowing down and then picking it back up. How did your mindset change? How did that affect your attitude to work, your ethics to work? And how did you keep yourself motivated to keep going and going?
Yeah, I think to be honest, being very honest, it's been up and down. I think when I first got into the role, obviously you're learning something that's new, and as much as I had a lot of transferable skills and I had recruited for myself being in management positions before, this is obviously then on a different scale and it's a different side of that. So, and I wasn't hiring them for myself. So as much as my personal opinion mattered to a certain extent, actually it wasn't me that I was trying to please, it was someone else. And so trying to get my head around the fact that it wasn't me that would wanted to hire them. And I always love all the candidates, and that's my biggest problem, is I want everyone to hire everyone, because I think I'm just a bit too nice like that, really. But I think that was quite difficult of like trying to wrap my head around that. And I think motivation is really hard, and I think the difference of being in something like hospitality and in that type of role, you're the person that's in control of everything that's going on, especially as a manager. I mean, obviously there are variables, and you've got your team are doing what you need them to be doing, but you're not micromanaging, they've got what they're doing. I think with this, it was so different to be reliant on other people and just so many things being out of your control. You send over the CV and then you just have to pray that they're going to respond within a time scale. Hope your candidate's not going to drop out. They're not going to take another job. They're not going to decide they want to stay in their job at the minute. Suddenly they want to be remote working instead of in an office. I mean, I've seen it all now. Everything, I've seen it all.
And that's due to COVID, where people want to work from home. So thank you, COVID. But yeah, motivation can be a hard tool.
Yeah.
And my favourite saying when it comes to motivation is like having a bath. We recommend it daily.
I didn't know where you were going with that. Like, what?
But it's genuinely, you have to pick yourself up every morning. And as long as you do the bits that you can control, and you can give yourself a pat on the back and go home at the end of it and go, I've absolutely killed it today. Yeah. That's all anybody can ask for. The other variables are variables that are out of your control, but you can try and influence them. And with the training, I'm hoping with the training that I've provided has given you the proactiveness, the leadership skills to be able to steer the client into the right direction. Because at the end of the day, recruitment, a lot of people think recruitment sales, especially coming from a recruitment agency perspective. We're not salespeople, we're consultants. We are there to consult clients and educate people, not just clients, candidates also, because we know what the job market's like. Some industries are very candidate driven, some industries are very job driven. So talk to us, how are you finding the market, and how are you finding, you've just talked about remote working. Have clients adapted and started to do maybe remote interviews, maybe a bit of flexibility? Some of the flexibility that we've got here today is we're recording this on a Friday. So as you can tell, we're dressed down on a Friday. So we're not all corporate suited ties and shoes every single day. We're a bit more relaxed with it. So we've had to adapt here at Regional Recruitment Services to meet the needs of the current workforce that we've got. So how would you say the job market's adapting, and how have you found it with the clients and so forth?
So I think, in honesty, I think the candidate market has adapted. I think the client market is slower off the bat. I think they're more anxious about doing these more remote and hybrid roles, and because it's a lot heavily reliant on trust, and you need to be trusting the people that are working for you. And I think that's a big problem in the market at the minute, is actually employers aren't trusting their employees, and so they're reluctant to go into these flexi-time roles, remote, hybrid, because you have to trust that that person is doing what they're saying they're doing. But that's a very bad foot to be starting on with anyone, is that to automatically not trust them. I think with the market, I think more and more people are looking for remote and hybrid positions. I think particularly in the area of candidates where you've got single parents, you've got people with young families, you've got people with illnesses that need to have more flexible working hours and need to have something that fits around their own lifestyle. And I think people are more focused nowadays on a work-life balance. And I think that's where the big change has been in, is that people are making sure that actually they are having the best of both worlds, and that they are getting their career on track, but at the same time, they're having their time as well. And I think that's a difference there.
And would you say clients aren't adapting because the people who run the businesses come from a different generation, so they are still a little bit old school minded, a little bit stuck in their ways, where the workforce that are coming into play is the new generation, and they've got their own ideas and they're trying to change the way of working.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 years ago, you would have never caught us on a podcast. It was more productivity, bottom line, profits. Whereas Regional has adapted in that sense. So you're saying that some clients have still got the old mentality and they're struggling to make that change and digitalise their business, and the candidates that we've got, or the workforce that are coming into the world of work, are the newer generations that they're used to being trusted, doing things remotely and working from home and doing their homework, coursework, whatever it may be, whatever background that they've come from, that they had that autonomy from a very young age.
Yeah, I think yes, basically. I think there is an issue with, well, it wouldn't necessarily an issue, but I think there is a mindset of, I think some employers at the moment and some clients have that mindset of, no, this is how we've always done it and this is how it should be. And I completely understand that. I think that happens a lot, and with any type of change in any environment. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. Things are very different now to how they were then. We didn't have we had mobile phones, but they were not the same as a smartphone now. And things move forward, and sometimes it takes people a while to catch up. And I think with COVID in particular, because so many people were then hybrid or remote, I think people realised that actually they could still do their job without needing to be in another environment. It didn't stop productivity. They've actually seen increases in productivity in workplaces where offer hybrid positions and where people can work from home, because your focus can be so much better. I know here you wouldn't be working in an office with Liam, who's the noisiest person alive. So, for example, that environment change can be really beneficial to some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think that's why hybrid is a great way of doing it. People often have the choice of doing both. But yeah, I think it is a lot of the case that I think some businesses are just a bit stuck in their ways. I mean, everything used to be paper-based. Everything's online now. It just takes a while for businesses to just influence these parts and just put them into motion so that they're actually moving forward with the times.
Absolutely spot on. You've hit the nail on the head. It is digitalising, and with the paper-based sort of working, it's a lot more efficient and effective to work on databases, computers. You've just mentioned working in an open floor plan. So we've got a lad called Liam, who you all know. He has been quiet the last couple of days because Liverpool have absolutely bottled it. So it's a good thing, because if Liverpool went to win the league, we wouldn't hear the end of it. Go on, Arsenal! I hope we win it. Disclaimer right here: if we don't, please don't send for me. So it is absolutely spot on when it comes to adapting and being in an open floor plan. Before we came here a couple of years ago, we used to be in a different office, which was more secluded. And having this environment where people are a little bit more open and you get to know your colleagues and you get to work together a little bit more and more effective and so forth. You've got to be able to adapt within the times. But some places or people don't like change. Even when we made the changes, there'll be so many upset people or so much churn that you go through. Please don't shy away from that, any client that wants to make that. And if you need any advice, we're always ready on hand to have that conversation. Going back to some of the things that you've been through, so I'm going to go back to the times you were running the club at the age of 18 to 20. So in those times, you would have seen the how you had to adapt from being to order whatever you needed to order for stock levels. It could be alcohol, which you would that's all you'll get in a club, alcohol and water maybe. I'll be very surprised if you served any food or anything else. No. But yeah, it'll be alcohol. So you probably would have put your orders through on paperwork or give it to the head office and then they'll order it for you. And now it's all gone digitalised. How did that affect your way of working within the hospitality industry throughout your period? And how did that industry adapt to it? And how could you advise clients to make the same changes to digitalise their way of working? Because you was in management at that time, so you would have made a lot of them changes yourself. You would have implemented all them sort of new training manuals or whatever it may have been. So what advice do you give to the masses out there?
Honestly, it was a lot of research into looking at what other companies were doing, what was working for other people, a lot of consultancy, to be perfectly honest, because you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's best, because if you've never done it before, how would you possibly know what's going to work? And I think a lot of the time it is trial and error with things, and you just have to see whether something's going to work, and that can obviously in a business can be really detrimental because you don't want it to affect the business, but at the same time you need to be trying to move forward, and so you need to try and adapt to these things. I think the biggest headache for us was using the then sort of CRM softwares. Was then the headache, and trying to, and with staff members of having paper pay slips and then everything being online, and then people having emailed pay slips, and then that was an absolute headache as well. And things do adapt, it just takes time, and you get used to everything. Like, you mean we never used to have smartphones, you didn't have the internet everywhere you went absolutely all the time, you had to use a map to figure out where on earth you were going all the time. We adapted, you move on, and then you take the next step. And I think people build up that it's going to be such an overbearing process and it's just going to be awful. And actually, if you just get it done, it's pretty pain-free, and it just takes a bit of training with people, and just actually moving forward in the business it's so beneficial, because if you're just stuck, you're just stagnant, you're not moving forward. So what's the point? You should always be improving. There's no point in just sitting as dead weight watching everyone else go past you.
Well, talking about people going past you, Mercedes didn't make them improvements and they fell back. Ferrari and Red Bull have gone miles ahead. So what that leads to is, if you fall behind as a business or as an industry leader, people will jump ship. You'll lose candidates. Hamilton is going to join Ferrari. Lucy joined Regional. It's just what happens. If you don't adapt in the world, you'll lose the great people that you've got within your business. Yeah. So you've got to look after your staff, you've got to look after your candidates, you've got to look after everybody within that process. Some businesses have got ATS systems, applicant tracking systems. If you do have an applicant tracking system, just please make sure that you update the candidates. So when they apply, maybe automate an email and be like, thanks for applying, your CV is now under consideration. Don't go quiet on them. We live in a society these days where people are flicking through their phones, 30-second reels, shorts. Their attention span has gone from here to here. And people's attention spans shortened so much that if you don't grasp their attention within a 30-second video clip, they move on. Yeah. They ain't got time to wait. So if you don't give them feedback within 72 hours, they'll move on. They'll apply somewhere else. Yeah. So if you want to keep a hold of your candidates, please, please, please make sure that you do keep them up to date and keep in touch with them. So we're going to move on a little bit from that, Lucy. So we've been talking to the clients out there, but I want to focus on the job seekers, the candidates, the people that are looking for work, or the people that aren't being treated maybe right in the business that they're in, or they would like a change. So with the digitalisation of the industry and how things are actually going, what advice do you give to candidates? Because what I'm seeing is a lot of candidates from different industries, whether it be drivers, whether it be lettings agents, whether it be salespeople, utilising social media, such as platforms as TikTok, to really stand out and put their story out there. What advice do you give to candidates to be able to stand out within the industry of what to do and what not to do?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn, for starters, I mean, everyone knows LinkedIn. It's a great place for networking, but more than that, it's a great place to advertise yourself with your successes of what you're doing. So if you're having a week where, I don't know, you're doing a presentation for something, ask someone to take photos, or if they can take a little video for you or something like that, just a quick snippet. And I think advertising and showcasing what you do, not necessarily fully of a day-to-day basis of here's my cup of tea first thing, I'm checking my emails now. It doesn't need to be quite that reportive, but having that sort of, I'm doing really well this week because this is going on, or I'm doing a special event, or I've got a new step in my career, or I got a great pat on the back for, I don't know, whatever you've done well recently. Cheers, love. Yeah, I think advertising that so that people can actually see what you're doing. So on LinkedIn, obviously, it has your professional work experience history on the side of your profile, which is great. But that doesn't actually showcase you. That just shows what your job title is. And so actually by showing what you're doing in that role and publicising it, people can then visualise you in their business doing those exact things. So they go, oh, they would do great at that presentation. Imagine if they worked for us and they were doing presentations for us and they were doing this. It's much easier for people to visualise you in their work environment if they can actually see what you're bringing to the table.
Perfect. And she's absolutely right. Please don't showcase your coffee mugs or anything like that at all. There's some people, I kid you not, I've not seen them for years, but I know what their bedroom looks like, because all you see is online. Is as soon as you open up any social media, oh, I'm in bed. I don't need to see your bed, love. At least make your bed before you put it online.
That and the thirst traps. I don't understand. Why are you putting thirst traps on LinkedIn? Why do you want your potential new boss to think you're attractive? I don't understand what you're trying to do there. Like, I don't understand it.
I know. I totally agree. Business is business, and there's a lot of vanity going around in the industry or in life in general.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my teeth. I've been Turkey. Well, if you've been Turkey and got turkey teeth, does that mean some Turkish bloke lost their teeth and they're now in your mouth? But no, you do find a lot of success on platforms. There's so many little different businesses that I've seen personally myself that have showcased what they can do. There's no free promo here, so I'm not going to shout anybody out, but I've recently seen a bloke, he's got this massive stick where he uses to clean industrial warehouses. It's more than a stick, he can explain it. Sponsorship available here, you know who you are. So it's showcasing your skills, showcasing what you do as a business to be able to attract new customers or attract new candidates. People want to work for you, people want to work there. That place seems fun, that place does this, they do this, and so forth. There's a particular chap that is a driver of ours, so we've got him out driving somewhere, and the motivational speeches he does on TikTok and LinkedIn is absolutely incredible. He'll be sat in his van every morning when I'm hoping he's parked up somewhere. You should be, mate, if you're not. So he's parked up and he makes these motivational speeches from his van, and it inspires other people to follow him. I've had the mindset of doing this for many, many years, but I just don't have the time to do it. So I send some motivational emails internally here, but that's about it. But if you really want to stand out and showcase what you're doing, you can use them sort of platforms, utilize your network. It's about who you know, and sometimes of not what you know. So having that sort of mindset in place of who you know and utilizing that skill set or that sort of resources available to you, what do you advise the candidates or the masses? And can you give them maybe a success story or an example of where you can actually showcase this in real life?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time people have always said, and I think it's a saying that's run for years now, is it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I think to a certain degree that can often be the case, which is why platforms like LinkedIn are great, because you broaden your network without even needing to meet people face to face. And in the digital age, that's just the best thing, is that you can connect to people all over the world all the time without having actually ever met them. And I think that's a skill that people should really utilise. I think reversely though, I think it doesn't always work that way. So Formula One, for example, Lance Stroll, sorry if you see this. Could you imagine if he watched? Sorry. Lance Stroll, for example, he's been an Aston Martin driver for a while now. I think we're all aware of the connection with his father in the role. He clearly is not performing and hasn't been for a long time now, and there's a lot of discussion within the Formula One community, but also the fan bases, of why on earth is he still there. And it's just an example of that sort of, yes, just because you know someone and you're in that position doesn't necessarily mean that you're great for the job either. So you have to have that skill set as well as having those connections. So you need to have two hand in hand. So you need to be able to perform, so like Alonso, but you at the same time, you obviously need the connection, because how else are you going to find them? So how else are you going to meet that person? So that person needs to try and be in your network in a certain respect, but at the same time you need to have the skill set to be performing. Otherwise everyone just assumes you're only in the position because you knew someone, just like Lance Stroll.
It goes back to that old saying, blood is thicker than water. But I'm a true believer that business is about honesty, integrity, hard work, family, and that's what keeps Lance Stroll into his job. But if him and his dad and the team were honest with each other and they had a bit of integrity, they would have kicked him out and got a new driver in. But one of the main things that I love about business, or I give to candidates, is remember where you've come from. Never ever forget where you've come from, in terms of that's going to keep you grounded, it's going to keep you humble, and it's also going to keep that motivation, that fire in your belly, because as you progress, well, as you can see in Lucy's development from a young age, she was a manager at 18. Imagine that got to her head and she got power drunk. She wouldn't have been here today, because she had to take a step back to get into a trainee position here at Regional Recruitment Services, which she's absolutely doing fantastic in. This is an Erector speech. She's unapproachable. Keep your hands off her.
I'm not interested. I'm genuinely not.
But on a serious, you have to remember where you've come from. You may know so many people, and if you keep it humble with them, I'm a true believer of remain humble or you stumble and crumble, and nobody will help you to get yourself back up there. So you got to be able to have soft skills. So what would you say, how important are soft skills in the hiring process?
I think soft skills are huge. I think a lot of the time soft skills could almost be worth more. I think realistically in the market at the moment, it's so difficult because everything's done online. No one does anything face to face anymore, really, until you're at an interview stage. I mean, when I was applying for jobs when I was younger, and I was at 14, 15, sort of 16, you used to just print off your CV and you used to just go into every single business in the area and say, hi, my name's Lucy, here's my CV, I'd love a job. And that was it. And you'd instantly meet them. And so much of it was then just based on you right in front of them. Whereas now you're trying to put yourself across on a piece of paper. And that's got to be all of you, all written on a page. And they've got to get the full circle of your personal life and your career goals and what you've done previously, all of your soft skills and all of your then career path. So it's utilising your soft skills and showing that you can have great communication skills, great persuasive skills, you're adaptable in different environments, you're great with working with others, or you're great at leading others, I think can give people more of a rounded idea of what you can actually do as a person, rather than it being, I'm a recruiter so I can recruit. It softens those edges and it shows that you are multifaceted, rather than just being, I can tick the exact boxes for the job role, but there's a lot more to me than just me ticking those KPI boxes, for example. Absolutely.
And the internet is great in one sense, but it's also bad on another sense. So I come from a similar era as Lucy. She's a little bit older. No, I'm joking.
Outraged.
No, we come from the exact same sort of age group. So when we were growing up, we obviously didn't grow up with the internet. You actually had to go knock on a door, and say if I was wanting to play outside of Lucy, I would knock on Lucy's door and I'll ask her parents, is Lucy allowed out? I wouldn't even say to Lucy, do you fancy coming to play at the playground? I would ask on her behalf. And then even handing out the CVs when you go around the retail industries in town and going in shops and dropping your CV. That all gave us social skills. That all gave us the confidence to be able to do cold calls. But with the internet a little bit, what I've noticed is it creates social anxiety. It creates a different dimension where a lot of people are talking about mental health and not being able to interact with others. And we've seen a lot of this. That's a whole different subject. We'll do a podcast on that. We'll do an episode on it. However, with that being taken into consideration, and then when you meet somebody for the first time, there's a lot of nerves in there. So what advice do you give to the candidates of how they can actually demonstrate their soft skills when applying or interviewing for a job role?
So I'm a strong believer of calling the company. I always have been. I think when you put in a CV, if you know that you tick every single box on that advert that you've seen online, if you don't meet the minimum requirements, don't call them, because they're just going to hate you. I'm not going to lie. It's just more of an annoyance, and it doesn't reflect well for you. If you don't tick the boxes they're looking for, I don't think you should do. At least if you're hitting half the boxes, then yeah, but that's a different conversation. But I think realistically, actually giving them the chance to speak to you and to express your interest over just sending in a CV. But I also think that personalising each application to each job role is so important, because if you just send one mass CV out to 40 jobs, that CV isn't actually going to align with everything that's in all of those job roles. And so you need to be advertising and highlighting those particular skills for that particular job role to make sure that those people know that, yes, it may not be that clear on my CV, for example, in my work history, but I've got great communication skills. I can talk to anybody about anything. I can do this, I can do that. And by editing your CV to each individual role, it's then going to make each application, it's going to give you more of a chance to get into those positions. You wouldn't just blanket one method of anything and one application. You need to basically be targeting that individual business. So in their advert, if they're saying we're looking for passionate, self-motivated, driven people, in your CV you need to be using the words I'm a passionate, self-motivated, driven person, because you're hitting those key words that they're looking for and exactly what they're looking for. And just by making a couple of subtle changes like that, they'll go, oh, do you know what, that's exactly what we wanted. So I think that's a really great technique, and I don't think a lot of people do it, and I think it's really something that people are just missing the hit for.
So you're absolutely right, and I agree. I believe recruitment's like dating, interviewing, applying for a job's like dating. You don't put all your cards on the table. You don't go, I'm desperate, I need a job, Mr. Client, please, please, please. You wouldn't do that in dating either. You wouldn't go to a girl or a boy and be like, I really need somebody. I'm so lonely at night. I can't sleep, and I need a support mechanism. No.
I'm out of practice. I've not been with anyone for a year and a half.
But absolutely, you hold your cards close to your chest. You have the first stage interview, then you've got a second stage. So you've got a first date, then you've got a second date, then you've got a third date, and then you might make it official after that. Same as the client. They might have first stage interview, second stage interview, third stage, and then you get your offer letter. Dating don't go as quick. You don't get married after 3. If you do, wow, love at first sight and all that. I applaud you. But it can happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. People win the lottery at the end of it. That happens too. So, and have you seen the rain in Dubai? The floods? Bloody hell. Whoever thought that was going to happen? So it's so unpredictable these days that anything happens. I'm waiting for the day Lando Norris wins the race, actually. I'm hoping that happens.
Honestly, I'm praying.
Fingers crossed.
For him.
Same. Fingers crossed. So it's exactly the same as dating, and you hold back. You don't give all your cards on the first interview. Yeah. And the more you hold back, the more people want to know about you. People want to see you. And then before you know it, they'll get so nosy, they'll offer you the job. You seem very peculiar. Or all the Office fans out there, you've charmed me. So, to wrap it all up, I am actually going to start a bit of a Chats with RRS tradition. I'm going to ask a question to all of our guests that come on here. If you have any suggestions to change this question, please feel free to inbox us on the email below, info@, it'll be right here somewhere. Shout out Georgia for putting it there. But on a serious, what advice would you actually give yourself at the age of 14? It doesn't have to be work related or career related, but genuinely, in terms of the life experiences where you've got to today, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a tough one, really. I think I would say to myself, you know, it gets better. I mean, you're not going to keep dropping everything. I was a terrible waitress at 14. Honest to God, it was awful. It was really quite embarrassing, actually. So I think it gets better. Don't believe everything that everyone tells you. I think I was very naive in the start in workplaces, and I thought that my managers were like the be all and end all, and I know not anymore.
What are you trying to say?
Absolute nightmare. No, I think there was a lot of idolization going on, and I think being so young as well at that age, everyone is older than you. Everyone I was working with was an adult at the end of the day, and I was literally a child. And I think moving forward, I think I was doing really well in a lot of things, but I think I was less confident in myself, and I should have gone a lot more with my gut instinct a lot of the time when I was younger, and I didn't. And I don't know whether that's because I was in an environment where people didn't necessarily trust what I was saying, given my age and the fact I was a young female in work at that time. But I think I probably needed to be a bit more confident in what I was doing. And I think I would tell myself, like, it gets better. Just keep going and trust your gut. I've got such a good gut instinct now, and I think I should have trusted it a lot sooner than I did.
Interesting. So no, thanks for watching. Thanks for Lucy's time. It's been great hosting you today. There'll be many more of this. Any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And any clients or candidates needs a job or looking for staff, Lucy's the woman. I hope Ferrari or Red Bull don't sue us. Oh, Mercedes more like.